Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
So I was at a meeting last week, and I was doing a presentation to the members of that meeting, and we were talking about the Entered Apprentice Mason's degree. And some of that I've talked about here on the podcast before, but I want to be a little bit more discreet and clear, and some of that emerged from having a little bit of dialogue with the guys in the room, that the Entered Apprentice Mason's degree is a playbook. It is a recipe for learning new skills. It provides for you a step-by-step instruction set of the things that you're going to need to do in order to acquire skills or capabilities. And so, starting with the easy stuff, the working tools, start going from that to the less obvious stuff where you really get to dig in a little bit more. But the working tools, right? So you can't go learn something new without establishing the time to do it. So the 24-inch gauge, you need to set aside some time, the right amount of time to do the work. You need to use the common gavel to get rid of the non-essential learning, right? So to take away the parts of that skill that aren't central to its acquisition, to remove the glitter from the process and go straight to the substance. And so when you do, if you were to just do that, if you were just to apply the working tools, you would get pretty far. To then apply some of the more obvious Entered Apprentice Mason sort of symbols to the process, like the preparing that you go through with the preparing room, removing any preconceived biases, removing your success in other criteria or other categories or other skills, removing all of those things from that process of learning so that you can walk in and truly absorb the content, using the evaluative tools that you've been given in terms of understanding the roles of the wardens and putting it all together. Understanding what work is the right work, that you've got the right resources, that you are well and duly prepared. Putting all of those pieces together is a great understanding of how to apply the Entered Apprentice Mason's degree in everyday life in the whole. What's also important is then as you go through that sort of recipe, as you follow that, understand that it is something that kind of is a living recipe, meaning you're going to get a deeper and more meaningful insight into the stuff that's put into that degree every time you give it a shot. So share with me in your in feedback, email me, what have you, your experience using the Entered Apprentice Mason's degree as a recipe for learning. I think when you go through that process a couple times, you'll come up with a standard approach, a process of your own to follow that's repeatable. And you can get to that sort of preto principle where you get 80% of the value in 20% of the time just by having a learning process that you're following. Even if some of that process is something that might take a different type of skill set to learn. So if you're learning piano, for example, you might set aside time for the lessons and to practice. And if you do the right practice and the right lessons, you're going to get, reasonably far fairly quickly. You might find, though, that there are some things that take longer. Rewiring your finger movements, for example, is going to be something that is a repeated practice, a physical practice, and the body responds slower in many cases than the mind. So you're going to, when you're practicing this Entered Apprentice Masons for learning stuff, understand that the mental component is going to be first, the emotional component is going to be second, and the the physical component's probably going to be third in terms of how you yield, how those results kind of play out in terms of the timeline.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at masonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.